Hello and welcome to Exploring Christianity, a Journey of Faith. Today we're going to explore religion and science. When I was investigating Christianity before I believed in God, I thought it was impossible to believe in both a creator God and science. Since I couldn't imagine how any intelligent person could reject the findings of science, clearly no intelligent person could believe in God. I lumped religious people together with flat earthers and other obdurate thinkers. The most obvious example was evolution. I'd always heard that you could not believe in the Bible and believe in evolution. As science had clearly proven evolution, then no reasonable person could believe in the Bible, right? As I drew closer to a belief in God, this became quite a sticking point for me. In my heart, I came to believe in God and I longed to become a child of God, but my mind simply refused the intellectual suicide that I saw as required to make that move. I was stuck in this conflict for quite a while. I finally reached a point where I simply could not continue denying what I felt so completely and profoundly. I knew there was a God. I saw God everywhere I looked, and I experienced God's love as the deepest truth I'd ever known. I took the leap of faith to acknowledge my belief, despite having no idea how to reconcile this new belief with the scientific worldview that I would not and could not give up. I had to simply trust that God would show me the truth. I lived in this uncomfortable space for quite some time. I was painfully aware that my thinking was internally inconsistent and that I was trying to hold on to conflicting beliefs and somehow make that work, but I simply couldn't find an alternative. For a time, I tried to simply ignore this conflict, but that approach was not sustainable. So after a while, I decided to research how other people dealt with this. What I found is that there are really, really smart people who are professional scientists and who are Christians. Lee Strobel, who is an award-winning journalist at the Chicago Tribune, wrote a great book called The Case for a Creator, in which he shares that there's a growing body of research supporting the conclusion that the universe was intelligently designed. Dr. Henry Schaefer, who is one of the world's most distinguished chemists in the world, a nominee for the Nobel Prize, and a devout Christian, wrote a book, Science and Christianity, Conflict or Coherence, which posits that science and Christianity support each other. Once I let go of my preconceived notion that Christianity and science couldn't go together, I began to see both of them in a whole new light. I started with the premise that both Christianity and science are right. If God is the creator of everything, then that would mean that God created the laws and processes that are the basis of science. And why not? That would mean that most things about the world, biology, chemistry, physics, etc., basically proceed on autopilot most of the time. There are computer programs that automatically pick up data and process it using defined rules, but it's still the case that somebody created that computer program. Science has predefined rules that govern many things, but that doesn't necessarily mean that someone didn't create science. Perhaps what we really mean when we say something was a miracle is that God suspended or temporarily modified the laws of science to achieve a particular result that wouldn't normally have happened. And what about evolution? It says that God created the plants and the animals by speaking them into existence. Maybe when God said, "Let there be plants and animals," that created evolution. Maybe God formed humanity through evolution. But the Bible says God created everything in 6 days, and evolution takes a very long time. Well, maybe God's days are much longer than our days. 2 Peter 3, 8-9 says, "With the Lord a day is like 1,000 years, and 1,000 years are like a day." But maybe you're convinced that the Bible means 6 24-hour days. Okay, then maybe God sped up evolution at the beginning, so it only took 6 days. Or maybe God literally spoke everything into existence and then created evolution to keep things moving forward from that point on. Personally, I don't especially care which of these is the right answer. What I do care about is that when I started believing that God created everything, including the scientific laws that govern the cosmos, this actually made the world more beautiful to me and science more fascinating. And I care deeply about God's great love for us that is visible in the meticulous care God took in creation. Well, that's what I believe. What do you see as the relationship between God and science?